Today we're going to read the story Two of Everything by Lily Toy Hong. This story is story lesson 29 in the Journeys reading series. And this story is written by the author Lily Toy Hong. That means that the author wrote the words of the story. In this case, she's also the illustrator, so she also drew the pictures. And by the end of the story, we're going to think about this essential question. What clues help you understand a story character? Can you look at the illustration on the cover and think about the features of these people, their gray hair, their no hair on top of the man's head? And what do those features or clues help you to understand about these characters? That helps you to understand that they're older. And as you read, we're going to think about other clues or features that help us understand the characters. Before we begin, we're going to quickly review the vocabulary words we'll hear in the story. Search, contained, startled, leaned, grateful, odd, tossed, and village. By the end of this story, hopefully you will have an understanding of these words, and at the end of the story we'll come back and read these sentences that have the words in them, and we will define these vocabulary words after we've read the story. Let's read Two of Everything by Lily Toy Hong. Once, long ago, in a humble little hut, lived Mr. Hacktack and his wife, Mrs. Hacktack. They were old and very poor. What little they ate came from their tiny garden. Can you see their tiny garden where they have to work hard to grow lettuce and turnips and potatoes and other vegetables? And here's their humble hut where they live. In a lucky year, when the harvest was plentiful, Mr. Hacktack had a little extra to take to the village. There he traded turnips, potatoes, and other vegetables for clothing, lamp oil, and fresh seeds. Plentiful means there was enough to have more than just what you need to eat. What do you think village means? That's a town or a city. And so he would take his extra vegetables and trade them and try to get other people to take the vegetable and give him the things he needed. One spring morning, when Mr. Hacktack was digging in his garden, his shovel struck something hard. Puzzled, he dug deeper into the dark ground until he came upon an ancient pot made of brass. Do you know what ancient means? Ancient means that something is very, very old. Do you see his very old pot that he dug up in his garden? How odd, said Mr. Hacktack to himself, to think that I have been digging here all these years and never came upon this pot before. I will take it home. Maybe Mrs. Hacktack can find some use for it. You think Mrs. Hacktack, his wife, will have some way that she wants to use that pot? Let's stop and think about the author's craft, what the person who's writing the story is doing. What story details do you learn from the person telling the story? Which details do you learn from what Mr. Hacktack says? So the narrator, or the person telling the story, tells us that the pot is in the ground, that it's ancient, and that it's made of brass. Can you think of what Mr. Hacktack told us about the pot? Let's keep reading. The pot was big and heavy for old Mr. Hacktack. As he stumbled along, his purse, which contained his last 5 gold coins, fell to the ground. What do you use gold coins for? To buy things. So he doesn't want to lose his only 5 gold coins that are contained or held within his little purse or wallet. He tossed it into the pot for safekeeping and staggered home. See, so he'd only have to hold one thing. He has this pot strapped to his back, and that way he doesn't have to hold his wallet and the pot. His wife greeted him at the door. "Dear husband, what a strange pot." Mr. Hacktack explained how he found the pot. "I wonder what we can do with it," said Mrs. Hacktack. "It looks too large to cook in and too small to bathe in." Since they didn't live in a town and this is long ago, they didn't have a bathtub, so she thought maybe they could take a bath in the pot, but no, it's a little too small. Can't cook in it, it's a little too big. What do you predict the Hacktacks might do with this pot that they found? As Mrs. Hacktack leaned over to peer into the pot, her hairpin, the only one she owned, she just had one, fell in. She felt around in the pot, and suddenly her eyes grew round with surprise. "Look!" she shouted. What had happened? How many hairpins did she have before? How many does she have now? "I've pulled out 2 hairpins exactly alike, and 2 purses too." Sure enough, the purses were identical, and so were the hairpins. Inside each purse were 5 gold coins. How many gold coins did he have before? And how many does he have now? He has 10 gold coins now. Mr. Hacktack was so excited he jumped up and down. "Let's put my winter coat inside the pot." Why does Mr. Hacktack want to put his winter coat inside the pot? What does he think will happen when he puts the coat inside the pot? If we are lucky again, the pot will make 2 coats, and then we will both stay warm. So into the pot went 1 coat, and out came 2 coats. They began to search the house and quickly put more things into the magical pot. "If only we had some meat," wished Mr. Hacktack, "or fresh fruit, or one delicious sweet cake." If you had the magical pot, what do you think you would want to put inside? Let's see what else the Hacktacks put inside. Mrs. Hacktack smiled. "I know how we can get anything we want," she said. She put their 10 coins into 1 purse, then threw it into the pot. She pulled out 2 purses with 10 coins in each. So first they only had 5 coins, and then they had twice as many. They had 10 coins. So now if they have twice as many, how many coins do they have? 10 plus 10 equals 20. What a clever wife I have, cried Mr. Hacktack. What do you think clever means? Is clever good or bad? Each time we do this, we will have twice as much money as before. The Hacktacks worked late into the night, filling and emptying the pot until the floor was covered with coins. Morning came, and off went Mr. Hacktack with a long list of things to buy in the village. Instead of vegetables, his basket was full of gold coins. Mrs. Hacktack finished all of her chores and sat down to enjoy a cup of tea. She sipped her tea and admired the brass pot. Then, with a grateful heart, she knelt and embraced it. Dear pot, I do not know where you came from, but you are my best friend. She stooped over the pot to look inside. What do you predict will happen next? Let's see. At that very moment, Mr. Hacktack returned. His arms were so full of packages that he had to kick the door open. Bang! Mrs. Hacktack was so startled that she lost her balance and fell headfirst into the pot. What did startled mean? How would you feel if someone kicked your door open? A little surprised and maybe a little scared? Startled means surprised and scared. Mr. Hacktack ran over and grabbed his wife's legs. He pulled and tugged until she slid out onto the floor. But when he looked at the pot again, he gasped. 2 more legs were sticking straight out of it. Naturally, he took hold of the ankles and pulled. Out came a second person. She looked exactly like his wife. The new Mrs. Hacktack sat silently on the floor, looking lost. But the first Mrs. Hacktack cried, I am your one and only wife. Put that woman back in the pot right now. Mr. Hacktack yelled, No! If I put her back, we will not have 2 women, but 3. 1 wife is enough for me. He backed away from his angry wife. What do you think's about to happen? And tripped and fell head first into the pot himself. What's going to happen since Mr. Hacktack fell into the pot? Both Mrs. Hacktacks rushed to rescue him. Each grasped an ankle, and together they pulled him out. There were 2 more legs in the pot. So they pulled out the other Mr. Hacktack too. Just what use does one Mr. Hacktack have for another? Mr. Hacktack cried angrily. This pot is not as wonderful as we thought it would be. Now even our troubles are beginning to double. But his wife had been thinking while he was yelling. What do you think his wife is thinking? Let's summarize how 2 Mrs. Hacktacks and 2 Mr. Hacktacks came to be. Can you help me summarize what's happened so far in this story? First they were poor, then they found a pot, they made money, and then they accidentally fell in and got more people. That's a summary of what has happened so far. Calm down, she said. It is good that the other Mrs. Hacktack has her own Mr. Hacktack. Perhaps we will become best of friends. After all, we are so alike, he will be a brother to you and she a sister to me. With our pot, we can make 2 of everything, so there will be plenty to go around. What do you think? Is that a good idea or not? Let's see what happens. And that is what they did. The Hacktacks built 2 fine new homes. Each house had identical teapots, rice bowls, silk embroideries, and bamboo furniture. How did they get all of those identical items? From outside, the house looked exactly alike, but there was one difference. Hidden in one house was a big brass pot. Of course, the Hacktacks were always very careful not to fall into it again. The new Hacktacks and the old Hacktacks become good friends. The neighbors thought that the Hacktacks had grown so rich that they decided to have 2 of everything, even themselves. Do you think they told their neighbors about the pot? I don't think so. Why would they not want to tell their neighbors about the pot? Where does this story take place? What is the setting of this story? The setting of this story is a village. That's where the story takes place. Now let's go back and look at the vocabulary words from this story and see if we know what they all mean. Search. It is fun to search for buried treasure. You will never know what you will find. What does search mean? It means to look for. Contained. This old box contained jewels, coins, and other treasures. What does contained mean? Contained means that it holds them inside of an object or container. Startled. The divers were startled to find treasure at the bottom of the ocean. What does startled mean? Startled means surprised or a little bit scared. Odd. Do you think it is odd or strange to look for buried treasure? What do you think odd means? Odd means unusual or not normal. Leaned. The woman leaned over to get a better view of the whale near the ship. What does leaned mean? Lean means to bend over something. Tossed. They tossed the supplies into their trunk to pack for their vacation. What do you think tossed means? Tossed means to set down without looking or to throw a short ways. Tossed. Grateful. The museum was very grateful or thankful to get the old statues. What does grateful mean? Grateful means thankful or glad. Village. This village is near the ocean. People find coins buried on the beach. What does village mean? Village means a small town or a small city. I hope that you've enjoyed reading this story, Two of Everything. And I hope that you were listening for the vocabulary words searched, contained, startled, odd, leaned, tossed, grateful, and village.